our first talk in this next session is from Ruben Timmerman, which I can pronounce perfectly because he's also Dutch. He will be talking about Holacracy. I said, like, because he works for Springest. You started Springest? Yeah. Yeah. Are you the CEO in Holacracy? No more CEO, so no. Just some dude from Springest who will be talking about Holacracy.
Yeah. Thanks. So, before I dive into the talk, and sort of hope to keep you awake after lunch, which is always tricky, so please, come on. I will tell you a little personal story about why I'm standing here, or why I'm talking about Holacracy, actually. But first, a question to also move your muscles a bit. Who already knew the word Holacracy before sort of this conference? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. 8, 9 in the back. Not bad, actually. So who didn't know Holacracy before the conference? The rest. It's okay, not bad. So there's about 5, 6 people that are asleep now. That's okay. The rest doesn't know it, so that's fine. So onto the story. About 6 months ago, I came into the office in the morning. Instead of going to my desk, we first had our stand-up meeting, which we borrowed from Scrum. And after the stand-up meeting, I went into the aquarium, which is our meeting room, which is called aquarium because it's glass on all sides, actually on 3 sides, so you can look through. I sat down with a cup of tea, and I invited my first colleague of the day. None of the colleagues I'm about to talk to are in this picture. And this picture is my current team. Well, some people are not in there. So that's a clue about this story. So the first guy I asked in was Raoul, very nice guy. I said, Raoul, come in, please. I said, okay, sit down. I have some very bad news. I'm going to fire you. From next month, you cannot work at Springest anymore. And he took the news pretty good. He said, okay, what's up? He was very open. He was like, okay. He knew something might be coming, but he didn't know anything. And I explained how we grew the company in 3 months from 20 to 35 employees. We grew very fast because we had an investment, and it didn't go well enough. So specifically, our German and our UK sites didn't grow fast enough to be able to, keep hiring at that pace. So that day, I had 8 of those talks, just one after the other. Every time I have bad news, I have to fire you. And then at lunch, everybody sort of knew something was going on, because of the glass aquarium. Everybody saw emotional talks in the aquarium all the time. And at lunch, I had an equally emotional sort of speech to everybody. That even brought me to tears because I felt I fucked it up for them. The company was in danger even at some point. Not then anymore because I made the decision to fire a lot of people, but it was a dangerous time. So it was very tough. And what's interesting, during my talk at lunch, which was about what went wrong, what we're going to change, why we had to let all those people go, people stood up and said, well, great that you do it like this, Ruben. Thanks for the openness. We enjoyed the learning so much. I hope to stay in touch with everybody. And people started thanking each other right then and there. And for me, that is one of the outcomes of Holacracy. We had a super open culture. That's still there, by the way. People respect each other. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of transparency. And the way we dealt with our downsizing, which was, of course, a very hard time, was, I would say, very holacratic. So hopefully I can inspire you a little bit today, and maybe you want to try Holacracy yourself or take some things from it. So I want to explain why we did it, how we did it, and the challenges that you will have to overcome if you want to try Holacracy. So then I'll dive into the gory details of it all. This is me. I used to have an online marketing agency called Search Results, so I'm a marketer by sort of profession, although I never finished my studies. I had a blog called UserKey, which was about user experience, which is a very dear topic to me. And then I started Springest about 6 years ago now. I'm about learning and growing all the time. And if I don't grow, if I don't optimize, if I don't make something more efficient, I start to get bored, so I change stuff. So as soon as something runs smoothly, I think, okay, we have to do it differently because it can probably be even smoother, or maybe we can just not do it at all and automate it or whatever. So that's what I'm always doing. So if you have that too, if you have this knack for efficiency, then trust me, Holacracy is very much a thing for you. This is Springest. It's a comparison website for learning. Actually, our mission is to become the Amazon of learning. You can find education courses and e-learning. So you could find Python courses or Red Hat courses on there. But also forklift truck courses. If you want to change your career or something, you can find anything. And we're live in 3 countries now, in the UK, the Netherlands, where we are from, and in Germany. And we have 2 missions. The first mission is to help everybody grow, help people learn, by finding the right course. If you want to become something, you can find the right course to become that at Springest. That's the main mission. But after I started the company, I noticed I have a second mission. I just don't want to do just that, but I want to do it in a certain way. And the way I want to do it is what I started calling to be a sort of a self-growing, self-learning company all the time. To have the company reinvent itself all the time. And I noticed we have to do that because becoming an Amazon of something is pretty hard. It's a pretty big ambition, so we have to reinvent ourselves all the time. But I wanted to create an organization that does that itself. I don't want to be the person that has to say, okay, stop what you're doing, we're going to do it this way from now on. So we have 2 missions, and Holacracy is at the center of both of them. We want to do things in a certain way. This is the company. You already saw the first picture, that's the team. So this is what it looks like to give you an idea of what kind of company we are. We are in the middle of Amsterdam. This is, actually we are 50 meters from the Dam Square. If you're ever in Amsterdam, this is serious, please drop by. You can also join meetings if you want to experience what it's like to have a meeting in Holacracy. So hereby, in the end, there will be my contact details. Just shoot me an email, say, hey, I want to come by, I want to check out this office, maybe have a GPA beer from Belgium. Whatever you want, really. We have standing desks, we invest a lot in our people, in the environment as well, plants, stuff like that. That's all very much part of me. Not because I like to be a hippie or something, it's because it creates better performance. Everything we do is about creating performance and efficiency and growing and all that stuff. So nothing is because I, think that plants are inherently a good thing. I think it's good for air quality. We choose the plants on the air quality and therefore we have them because air quality enhances productivity. So that's how I think. So don't think it's just a hippie thing. It's really just an optimizing thing. So we have the morning stand-ups every day. So we have a lot of things that come from other practices as well. So why did we choose Holacracy? Maybe this helps you choosing it as well. Or thinking, hell, maybe it's not for us because it's not for everybody. We already did Getting Things Done, GTD. Who knows GTD here, Getting Things Done? Ah, okay, cool. So Holacracy, for those who know GTD, is GTD for your team. So GTD is for yourself, right? And if you're super productive and everybody else isn't, then you have a big problem. It becomes very annoying very quickly, I ask you if it's done and it's not done because you don't get things done. So Getting Things Done, we already did that. We used Scrum and later Kanban. We are very transparent with each other, very assertive and maybe sometimes even aggressive in expecting things from each other. We already had that. We were a small startup. We have very hungry people. They are young. They want to learn. They want to quickly grow. That's why they're at my company. They earn a bit less than they might make if they go to Microsoft or a consultancy firm or something. They don't get a car. They don't get a phone if they're not in sales. But they're hungry for change, hungry for learning. That's why we chose Holacracy. And we were growing very fast. When we started with Holacracy, we were 10 people. And that was in the first 2 years or something. Then we started Holacracy. Now we're back at 25 from 35. Good to know. We are also very tool heavy. This is a tool called Medium, and that manages all the tools, the logins to the tools. Sorry, Meldium. Medium is where I blog. Meldium is the login tool. We have about 200 tools that everybody can use and access. And that ranges from the bank to browser stack for testing some stuff, to A/B testing software, everything. Everybody can log in anywhere if they want. They can see what other people are doing, etc. So this is how nerdy tooly we are. We are very data-driven. We have a focus on KPIs, key performance indicators. Every role, every team has things they track. They're responsible for that, and we bring it all together in Google Sheets with APIs and scripts to bring in external data as well. You can do very cool things in Google Sheets, even do SQL-like things in sheet cells. So all the sheets are auto-generated. We're very data-driven in that sense. And that's why Holacracy also fit us. So if you like data, which I know at least the developers probably do, this will fit you. And as I said, we had the daily stand-ups already, and that's also part of Holacracy in our case. So on to the big question. what the hell is it? Holacracy, Holacracy. So it's a bit of a hype right now, and you might hear more about it. I can't explain it all in detail. I'll explain the most important concepts to you. So hopefully you know enough to decide if you want to check it out more or join one of our meetings in our Amsterdam office. So it's a set of rules for how you make decisions as a company, how you make decisions on how the teams are formed, or how you make decisions on which roles do what things, or who is responsible for what, etc. And those rules are very strict. They are set down in the Constitution even. It's a law. And everybody has to abide by the same law. So you have these rules. That's the basic principle of Holacracy. It's sort of a mix between Sociocracy and GTD and Scrum, and for me, evolution as well. It's not a design principle or anything, it evolves. You try random things, or semi-random, based on what people think, and you see if it works. And if it doesn't, you throw it out. You try something else. So it's very evolutionary. So if you don't like it, you change it. You know, you can't not like evolution, right? It will just fix itself, hopefully. It's very explicit. It's about being transparent. It's about clarifying things all the time. Clarity is, I think, almost the most used word in our office. You know, get clarity in something. There's so much stuff that stays vague in normal business, and Holacracy is really about extreme transparency and the duties that you have as an employee to be transparent and to request extreme transparency from others. And not just ask a question and get an answer, but think, do I get it? Is this clear to me? Do we understand the same thing? You know, checking back. That's a very important thing of how we run Holacracy. And finally, it's about a hierarchy. It's not unhierarchical, it's not a democracy. It might sound like it, but it's not. There is a hierarchy, but it's very explicit. And authority is distributed evenly, or let's say very clearly as well. That's nice. I think the helicopters are landing now. So authority is very much distributed. There's autonomy for people everywhere in the company, and it's very clear what everybody does. So in that sense, there's no hierarchy. I cannot tell you what to do, for instance, if you are in a circle of mine. I can take your roles away from you, but I don't tell you what to do. Maybe you even tell me what to do in another circle, because you are my lead link there. That happens. I have about 20 roles, and a lot of them are in other people's teams, you know, and there I am not the CEO. I have a small role that I fill. So it's very, very even, very open. So to quickly explain, I'll just dump some concepts so you get an idea. I won't explain it all. As I said, it's a set of rules that you have to adopt. There's a document you sign when you start doing Holacracy. Literally, you sign the Constitution. And it literally says, I, Ruben Timmerman, formerly the CEO of Springest, hereby grant authority to the system of Holacracy to run Springest. I cannot change Holacracy. I can only sort of kill the whole thing and say, we're not doing Holacracy, I'm the boss again. But there is a document on the wall that says the Constitution rules now, and the same rules apply for everyone, including me. So that's what it starts with. And there's duties for everybody, there's elections for certain roles. I won't dive into that today. Then there's two forms of meetings that are important. Tactical meetings, which are about work, and they're very structured in how you talk in the meetings and the verbs you use, etc. And there's the governance meetings, which you do to decide how are we structured as a company. So this is not something I decide. I can just propose it in a governance meeting, and the governance meeting takes care of the rest. And that's sort of the evolution process. And it processes tensions. In Holacracy speak, a tension is anything that's between what is now and what you think it could be. Like an improvement, or just something that's annoying, something that that you think could be better, whatever it is. So it runs on that. Then you have circles, which are sort of like teams. Circles have a strategy, and in circles are roles. And roles have a purpose and accountabilities, and sometimes domains. A domain is something you can't touch, someone else can touch, unless I say you can. So there's a lot of structure in there to sort of form your company. If you want to build a dictatorship, you can. You could try at least. But we chose something else. So this is sort of the basic structure of it. Now I'll dive into the why and the how we did it. So what we hoped to achieve, what we wanted was a few things. First, a promise. We wanted to be in control. I wanted to feel in control, but without being a controlling manager. Because I didn't want to sort of have my management thing on there, and I didn't want to be a chaotic startup forever. You know, until you're 10, you can do that. But with 20, it starts to become a total chaos, so you can't do it anymore. So that was the first one. Should I switch mic? I'll do it.
Raz, dwa, raz.
It might just be me.
Raz. The second.
Oh, yeah.
Raz.
Better? Also still understandable? Yeah, nice. Now I notice what the noise was. It's like this hum in the back you don't notice until it's there, until it's not there anymore. So first one was a promise. We wanted to have a company that's in control and not just one big uncontrollable chaos like any startup is. Which is good until you're with 10, as I said. You can manage everything at the lunch table and talk to each other all the time and you'll figure it out. The second thing is the reward of learning together. On this picture is Dennis, a colleague of mine who gives talks like this as well. And he's a product owner in the company. And he never spoke in public before Holacracy. And I asked him to do some talks because we had visitors at the company. And now he does. And this is super rewarding for him to learn, for me to see him learn, for others to learn from him when he does talks. And everybody is very actively and sort of explicitly learning all the time. Because Holacracy is hard also. It forces you to learn a lot of new rules, to go out of your comfort zone, etc. So this is what we hope to achieve by doing it. So if this sounds attractive to you, then try. We also had the ambition to create a better type of organization. As I said, I want to optimize, and I think I can read 1,000 management books and think, okay, that's it. But I can also just try to continuously improve on what we have and see if I can create maybe the perfect one, or at least the perfect one for that time. So we are trying to create a new type of organization, actually. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, and then we evolve again. And this is a very big goal of ours, actually, and everybody's very involved in that. We really want to figure out how to run an organization in a new way. Not because it's new, but because it might be better, more optimal. So that's a big goal of ours. And also the wish to have a more fun and more rewarding place to work at. Why? Because it's easier to hire people then. We usually have too many developers that want to work at Springest, and this is very uncommon in Amsterdam, where there's a huge shortage of, in our case, Ruby developers. But usually we don't have issues with that. And that's also because of the lunch and the plants and the ping pong and the boxing and everything. But it's also because of Holacracy, because there's a lot of autonomy in every role. So how did it go? We said, let's do Holacracy. It was end of 2012. I signed the constitution, signed away all my authority to the system. Now what? So we took a coach, a Holacracy coach, a guy who also wrote a book on it, one of the, I think, 7 or 8 certified coaches in the world. And he helped us through it. And this is what happened. At first we thought, well, easy, we're already doing it. We're a startup, we're very agile, we have Scrum and later Kanban, and we do a lot of things already. But that wasn't true, actually. Not really. After a while we started understanding Holacracy, and then we noticed, we're not really doing it. Our meetings are not really that tight. There's no real transparency everywhere. There's no real accountability everywhere. We started to figure out this is hard. This is also not for everyone. We let some people go in that time. Some people left in that time. If you are uncomfortable with insecurity or with uncertainty, then Holacracy can be very tough in the beginning, because a lot of stuff you still have to figure out. It has to evolve. It's like, you felt like a god before, and now you're watching apes. It's like, oh man, I don't know where these apes will go. Maybe they will just remain apes. Could be. And you have to be comfortable with that. So the people that couldn't deal with that left, or I asked them to leave. About 4 out of 15 or something in the end left. Not because of Holacracy, but because a lot of stuff got exposed because of Holacracy. They became clear that they were insecure, that they were not doing a good job, that they were unsure of what they were doing, actually. They couldn't explain, there was no clarity, etc. So some people left. Then after a while, 3 to 6 months, I think, 4 or 5 months maybe, we thought, okay, we get it now. Now we have this huge expectation of Holacracy because it's working. We see some meetings run well, some meetings don't yet. We have this huge, opportunity we see, this huge ambition we had to make it work. And then in the end, I think we're starting to master it. And we hover around 60 to 80% of perfect holacracy. And it changes all the time because every time you do something better, you set a higher goal as well. You think, okay, now we have this covered, we should be, even better at that. And you grow with people, so, new people come in, they have to learn as well. So I think we're now at 80% and we might drop to 70 when we hire more people. That's where we're at. And it's really like a sport. Or like my holacracy coach says, like Kung Fu. He's a Kung Fu teacher as well. He goes to Thailand for schooling, stuff like that. And he says once you know the rules, you can play the game. That doesn't mean you're good at it. And to play the game of holacracy, you probably need 4 or 5 months to really get the hang of it. But then you're not, a star player yet. You have to really learn. So what happens when you do holacracy? So who of you would like shorter meetings? Hands? Yeah, see, so good. We all do. So that's what holacracy does, less bullshitting. Actually, no chit-chatting at all in meetings. They're all killed. Takes you a few months to get used to it. People get depressed, it's fine. It's very hard to do. We have facilitators in the meetings, like other management things also have facilitators. And they become shorter, and we had to replace that also with different things, because the fun was taken out of the meetings. The fun got back when the meetings became efficient, but at first it was just tough. You couldn't just say something, you couldn't give your opinion on anything. There was only a specific point in the meeting when you could give your opinion and in a specific format. Stuff like that is part of holacracy. Another one, there was a lot more clarity in who does what. Before that, we had a title. We had the marketing manager, and we had the sales guy, and we had this and that. And what they did was largely up to them to figure out, and they just did it. But nobody knew exactly what it was or what they could expect. And in holacracy, there are rules for setting roles and accountabilities, and therefore you know exactly what everybody does. It changes all the time, but there's a system to take care of the clarity, actually, so you can look it up and figure it out. And you use that system, that clear system, to figure out what should I do next. And that's up to you, based on your accountabilities. So there's a lot of clarity in also who is accountable for what, and that also urged some people to leave, because that's tough. It's not, you don't have a vague role anymore. You just do some work, you stroll along with the projects that come in. No, there's very clear accountabilities and there's purposes for your roles. And if you don't sort of fill those purposes, then it will start to feel bad, which is good, but tough. And we had a better GTD practice because we put everything in one big system. So everybody could see anything from anybody. And all the tasks were in there as well. So if I ask something of you, I'll make you a task and I can follow it and everybody can see it and can see what project it's part of, etc. So that's very extreme. That took some getting used to, a lot of learning, but in the end we have this very efficient GTD practice as well. And a lot less synchronization was needed because everything is visible in the same format. So we don't have to talk or ask, so how's it going with the project? I already know if I follow it. If I unfollow it, then I can just check it out. And it's there and it's unified and it's one language, etc. Very nice. Also less micromanagement and less anxiety about it. Usually if someone complains about micromanagement at Springest, and sometimes someone does, they're not even pointing at me, it's a random other colleague. They say, he's micromanaging me. And then we try to figure out what's up then. And it turns out that the micromanager is asking for feedback, is asking for updates. So what does that mean? The person who is micromanaged didn't have his stuff in order. There was no clarity. So that sort of disappears. Nobody feels micromanaged anymore because it's just a matter of having clarity. And usually there is clarity, so there's no need for micromanagement. Everybody knows, and if you want to know, if you don't know, you can figure it out. So that's what Holacracy did. So if these things sound good to you, try it out. It will be hard again. I keep stressing that because it was, but it's totally worth it. It's like GTD for those who know. GTD is also hard. One other big thing, no email. We killed email altogether. And now we're getting our suppliers into Asana. Asana is our project management tool. All the tasks are in there, the roles are in there, the meetings are in there, the suppliers are in there. We get them in there and they email us and we say, sorry, can't accept your email, nothing happens, it's not a task, there's no follower structure there, there's no project. So we have everything in Asana. It's a bit of a nerdy productivity system, but check it out if you're into that. And we connected APIs to it to push our commits to Asana. So, you know, projects are auto-updated based on your commit. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't have to hold a meeting about your progress. You don't even have to do the stand-up meeting, but you can to talk a bit around what's happened. So no email at all, like zero. It's very nice. I mean, the outside world still emails us, and then we process that into Asana, and we have, you know, Zapier API tricks for that to do that based on labels and stuff like that. Lots of, you know, custom stuff. Also Slack integrations with Asana for us, and help desk system going into Asana. Everything is there. But it's very nice to do that. We have a lot of internal hack nights where we build these little projects. So 8 big challenges. How much time do I have left? Check it out. Perfect. A challenge per minute. So you think, okay, this sounds cool. I want to try it. You know, you can try it with your team. You can try it with your entire company. It helps if let's say the highest person currently in the team adopts it and says, guys, we're going to do it. Fuck it. Let's just do it. But then you will get these things. And this article is on Medium, so you can look it up as well for a more detailed explanation. The first thing is it doesn't tell you how to run your team or organization. You know, it helps you evolve that, but it's not like a management thing that says, here, this is your structure. You have to figure that out yourself. So that's a bit sad. But you have to play the game to be able to, you know, create the structure that is apparently ideal, to evolve the structure. So don't design your team, don't design your company, but you let it evolve. Secondly, it actually does. Because it tells you what you cannot do. You cannot go up to someone and say, do this now, drop everything you're doing and we have to do this. You can't do that, or you have to do it in a certain way, actually. So you have to play by the rules as well. If you're the CEO, that's very tough. He's in the back, he knows it. This is a tough thing to do, you know. A lot of things that work now are not allowed in Holacracy, so you have to figure out new ways of doing that. So you have to do that by playing the game. So I, as the former CEO, had to figure that out to play the game very well, so that I could get done what I wanted to get done. And that's tough, but in the end, that meant I'm playing by the same rules as everybody else. And how does that sound? You know, a CEO that plays by the same rules. That's very nice. And then as a CEO, you have to have your shit in order. You know, I have roles in other teams, and I have to have my tasks there. And they have to be formatted in the right format. And the projects have to be up to date, and all of that. I play by the same rules. But that means that if I want something done, I request it from you. And I can request clarity and request an estimate for it and, you know, push on it. So it's very important that you do that as a CEO or as the manager or whatever. There's the Constitution, you know, that has the rules. It's there. You can read it, look it up. If you don't agree with something, check out the Constitution, check out what we decided on together, and then it's clear. Gossip and politics will still be there. People do that, they like it. It sucks. Holacracy kills a lot of it, actually. But what is very important is that when it starts to happen, you have to point it out and be very clear about it and say, okay, hey, Michael, in this role, I am addressing you. I'm not addressing you, Michael, because you are my brother or because the secretary likes you so much, you know, office stuff. No. Say, Michael, in this role, I need, you know, this from you in my role. Make it very explicit why it's needed, what's needed, and then the politics disappear because Holacracy is not about people. There are no people in the system. That sounds pretty harsh, but it's true. It's about roles. It's an abstract form of that. That's about work. So the gossiping will go away after a while, or the gossiping will be just for fun and not for work. You know, think about that. Gossiping can be fun and it's fine, and people talk, and it's cool if it's about romance, but not if it's about work or about getting work done. So that tends to disappear, but you have to be very direct about it. If you play the game without knowing the rules, you will lose. This happened a lot in the beginning. People didn't like it or were afraid of it or didn't get it yet. And then they felt like they lost in meetings. Like they wanted to get something done, but they couldn't because, you know, they didn't really understand how. And, you know, it makes sense, right? You play tennis, you don't know how it works, you don't know what the lines mean. Yeah, then you will lose the game, of course. So if you want to play it, really check out the rules and take some time. So we learned that we had to focus a bit more on the learning part. Get our coach in again, you know, read the Constitution, check stuff out. There will still be managers or people that act like it, or people that sort of think someone else is acting like a manager. So a lot of feedback was needed for that. And this is something we also learned, and it's very nice if people start to become good in giving feedback and processing their tensions, so to say. To say, hey dude, this is not the way to do it. The way to do it is this, you know, it should be an Asana, it should be a request, it's not an order, stuff like that. So we had to do a lot of feedback, and we still do. And it gets tough also because it's hard. And then especially as the leader or the CEO or whatever your role is, you have to suck it up and think, okay, you know, if it's unclear, I probably did something wrong. This is a very interesting thing that happens in Holacracy always, is that you think this circle or this team or this role is not doing what I thought they should be doing. So what does that mean? That means the strategy in the circle above that is unclear. So suck it up and clarify the strategy and then request a change for a project. You know, so it bounces back at you. So that's why the mud. That's me in the mud, you know. It's not me actually, but could have been. Lost some weight. Beware of the creationists. You know, it's not about designing the perfect world. It's about letting it evolve. So undoubtedly you'll have people saying, wow, yeah, this meeting we had, I think I have a good idea for running the team. If we put that guy there and create a sub-team there, then it's really awesome. And that doesn't work at all because it's designed by one person. And we know the world doesn't work like that. Hope you do. So it's about evolution and let it evolve. And if it's not going fast enough, you know, put evolution faster. You can do that in Holacracy, but don't design everything. Just throw it out there and see if it works. See if the species evolves. Last one, staying positive. This was in the beginning tough because people were doubting it and it was hard and sometimes it didn't work because we didn't know how. And at some point, after 2 months, I said, you know what guys, this is not an experiment anymore. Because in the beginning I said, we'll do it for 6 months. We'll figure it out. You know, it's an interesting learning opportunity. We'll all learn something and if it doesn't work, we'll throw it out. And after 2 or 3 months, I said, you know what, we'll never throw this out. Because then I understood that you can evolve the system to do anything you want. So then I said, whatever happens, we're going to stick with this. And if you don't like it, you change it. It evolves. So if you have a problem, bring it to the governance meeting and fix it. And that was pretty powerful because then people stopped complaining and actually learning because they thought, oh, I might as well learn the rules, you know, if it's not going away. I can't sit it out, might as well join. So that was a good learning moment for me. Final one, is it worth it? It was for us. See, they're all happy. The dog is happy. All cool. It's very confronting though. So, you know, beware of that. If you're willing to do that, if you think that's a good way to advance, then by all means do. It's great for growth. It was a bit tougher for slowing, as I just said. But after slowing, it was great again because, you know, roles got picked up, clarity was created very quickly. So it's good for the change. And I think it's the ultimate thing in Agile, actually. Agile is meant for development, but this is Agile for sales and marketing and project teams and everyone. And it's, you know, harder for some kind of people than for others, but I think this is the ultimate thing. So if you want to really do it, you know, do Agile full stack, then this is it, I think. So yeah, with that, that's pretty much it. So if there's time for questions, bring it on. And as I said, don't hesitate to contact me, ask me questions, or come by the office, literally, you know. If you're in Amsterdam, drop by. So questions? In the back, first one, I think.
I've got a question about the roles, specifically about how they are designed and described with the responsibilities related to them, and who is doing that.
Yeah, so two sort of small errors in the question, which are interesting. It's not designed and it's not by one person. It's designed by a process called the governance meeting, and that has very strict rules. And you propose a role if you want to change something, or you propose a change. So you say, I want to rename the role to this and add an accountability. So I have a role called contracts and salaries, which usually I did because I was the CEO. I decided on salaries or negotiated, and I dealt with the contracts. And now I have a role that's called contracts and salaries. With one of the accountabilities is negotiating with prospective employees about salaries, and you know, there's a few of those. Yep. I'll repeat it, okay.
So just wanted to know, maybe not how do you design it, but how do you get to the point that you need to create another role
I get the question. This is an interesting question because usually, you know, someone does it and you know how it's done. With Holacracy, everything starts with attention. So you have attention and you think this part of the team could be better, or we are actually, there's work there, but there's no role for it. So then there's attention because it's the current situation and the new situation. The current is unclear and the new is clear in your head. So you create a proposal in the governance meeting and you say, I want to create a role called cleaner, and we call the accountability. It always has to start with a verb because it has something to be, something has to be done. Cleaning up the office, blah, blah. And you just propose it, and then people can react to it in a certain format, so it's not an endless discussion, and then they can object to it. But you can only object if you have data, proof that it will harm the company. And if it doesn't do any harm, it is accepted. It is very hard in Holacracy to not have a change. And it's very easy to propose a change, like evolution. So you propose it, and I disagree, but if I don't have any data, or any, well, there's a few specific things on why I can object and block it, but it's never stopped, actually. You evolve the proposal into something that does work. So, yeah, it's tough to explain, but, the tension will be solved in the meeting, and it has to be solved. So there has to be a change. Change cannot be stopped by the process. That's how it works.
Here. The noise
It's you.
here, yeah. Does it work with remote Steam? Do you have experience with that?
Yeah, I have a little bit, but Holacracy One, the organization that started it and trademarked the term and does a lot of training, is a total virtual company, actually. And for the people who do GTD, getting things done, the company behind GTD, David Co. from David Allen, does Holacracy as well with a largely remote team. And David Allen is living now in Amsterdam, actually. He comes by to the office every now and then to teach us a bit of GTD, so that's perfect. So it's very much very, very good for remote teams, actually, because of the clarity. If you're together, it's easy to just assume a lot of stuff, but if you're remote, it's a lot harder to assume because you have no fucking clue if the guy is looking you in the eyes and says, I get it, I know what you say is what I mean. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's what she said. It's even more important for remote teams to have this clarity. So a system like this definitely helps.
Okay, how would you imagine follow projects if you have 1,000 people in your company?
Like the same as you do now. You don't follow everybody, right? You don't talk to everybody all the time either. You make choices. So based on your roles and your projects and your own priorities, or the strategy of the circle, or the goal of the month, or whatever how you decided, you will still decide. So it's not like you auto-follow every role or every one. You could, in theory, but you probably won't. And for us, Asana is a good solution in that because it's very easy to, turn stuff on and off. But it's on, what you care about or what your roles are, and that probably decides what you follow and what you want to be notified of. Does that help? One is in the back, and then here. Yeah, do it, fine. Then we'll get to you later. Yeah.
How about roles that are don't needed anymore? Are you fired of people?
No, well, I could. Or I can't. Actually, if a role is not needed, it's probably deleted in governance. So we don't do it anymore, it's deleted. And then the person might be still there. But usually a person has 7 to 15 roles. I have a bit more, I have a lot of small roles, but usually you have 7 or 8 or 9, and it changes a lot. So usually it's not a role being deleted and a person being, Roles are more granular than functions in general. My function was CEO, but now I have a role contracts and salaries. I have a role evangelist that has an accountability that makes it that I can stand here. This is preaching how we do stuff is part of that role, that's why I'm here. But that's a small role, and I have about 15 of those. But if you don't have any roles, and this is very interesting, Holacracy has that clarity of roles, and you see what someone does, and it evolves over time automatically. And you might see, someone is evolving himself out of the organization because the roles are not given to that person. Make sense? Cool. In the back?
Yeah, hi. So, do you have any secrets? And if you do, how do you handle them?
You mean inside the company?
Yeah.
So secrets, sure. Yeah. Our salaries are still secret. There's 3 or 4 roles that have access to the salaries because of their roles. And that's the last one. And I want to fix it as well, but it needs a bit of time, leveling things out. So that's maybe the last thing, because the bank account is open in my KPI sheets, and the numbers are all open, but you don't have to do that. That's definitely not a part of Holacracy, but it helps us. We like the transparency in those areas as well, but we don't have to. But in the end, I think it's nicer if we do. Cool.
I think we're running out of time.
Sorry,
so
yeah.
yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.